logo, Jokic's silhouette, and then can we just pause on all of this, that every single day it has to be a new version of, not only is he the best player in the world, not only might they win the title, he should win every award and every big round number game. Is that the greatest offensive game we've ever seen? Was the 30-20-20 the single greatest sports feat of the 21st century? Some people are saying it. And how often are we going to change long established rules for the same guy and then change them back? So we already decided you can be a 6 seed and win MVP even if you've never gone on a deep playoff run if you're Nikola Jokic. We almost decided you can win 3 in a row, which only one guy had done in the modern era, and win your 3rd without ever being in a finals, which no one had done if you're Nikola Jokic. And then last year, we correctly said, when these were the numbers between him and Luka, you know what? I don't care that the left-hand column we've never seen before and seems make-believe it's so good. The very top of it is what MVP is about. That 57 wins and tied for the best record versus 50 wins and right around 4th place. That guy is going to get 81st place MVP votes, and that guy's going to get 4. And now this year we're saying, you know that logic? The exact opposite's true. Actually, it's just about the eye-popping numbers we've never seen, and the winning is not what's going to get you the MVP. There is no possible.
The thing that Nick Wright, you know, I understand what you're trying to say. The problem, though, is that he's acting as if he's acting like 2 things. A, Shai is still winning the award. Like, you have the MVP odds at the bottom, and it says that Shai is winning the award. So I understand what you're trying to say, but Shai is still winning it. I also get what he's saying, but I want to say, I was going to say the gap was a bit different because I think Jokic and them last year, it wasn't just the numbers, it was just also winning. Like last year, the Nuggets they were tied for the number 1 seed last year. Yeah, they were tied for the number 1 seed last year, and Dallas was like 7 games below them. So I think that it was not just the winning, but also the statistical dominance. And so both of them are statistically dominant, but one of which is winning significantly more. That's why you would give it to Jokic. Not saying I agree one way or another. I'm just saying I think there's a lot of context that he's missing.
Logic 2. I voted for Jokic last year. I'm voting for Jokic this year.
You don't think there's logic to voting for Jokic?
No, I'm saying I think Brew's in an interesting place because Brew, I think you were one of 4 people who voted for Luka last year, first in MVP. I think you were.
I gotta be honest. I gotta look.
My point is there is no logic to. Last year, Joker was the league's most valuable player over Luka. And then this year, Joker is the league's most valuable player over Shai. Because the argument for Joker last year is the argument for Shai this year.
What was Dallas seeded last year?
4.
Okay, so
it was a 7-game gap. This is an 11-game gap.
Right. Like, I have SGA as my MVP, and he will get my vote, barring some astronomical change. However, there's a logic. Like, they're the 2 seed, all right? Denver is the 2 seed, not the 4 seed. Now, I know it's close, and maybe they'll fall. But at the same time, his numbers are better than Luka's were last year. He's averaging a triple-double. He'll be the first center to ever average a triple-double.
And Shai's numbers are better than his were last year, than Jokic.
But my point, but you're saying there's no...
Shai's numbers are better than Jokic's last year?
Are better than his.
He'll be the first center to ever average a triple-double.
And Shai's numbers are better than his were last year.
He's saying saying Shai's numbers are better than Shai's numbers last year. Yeah, Shai, okay.
Then Joker.
But my point,
No, wait, didn't he just say Joker? What?
Triple-double.
And Shai's numbers are better than his were last year.
You're saying there's no logic to like, if you voted for Luka last year, you can't vote for...
If you voted for Joker last year, then you have to vote for Shai this year.
I guess the point I'm making is I think you're way, getting mad at Michael Malone or getting mad at somebody for saying they think Jokic is the MVP. I think that's way overboard. Like I said, I think it's Shai, and some of the reasoning, because you said Shai is leading the league in scoring. Shai is efficient too, just like Jokic. Shai is tied for 2nd in the league in steals on the best defensive team in the league. Mm-hmm. His team has an 11-game lead over Denver. Shai is doing it with the 2nd youngest team in the league. And he's essentially their only star. All right, so there are reasons to vote for Shai. I'm just saying, to act like, how dare you vote for Nikola Jokic? You're an idiot. I don't agree with that logic.
I'm not saying you're an idiot, and I'm a guy who last year thought there was a real case for Luka, and by that logic, I must say there is a real case for Joker. Well, I don't like the Calvin Ball element of heads I win, tails you lose to MVP discussions around this specific player. I've never seen anything like it.
Nigga, you've never seen anything like it when you've argued this way for LeBron? You have effectively argued, because let's go back to this right here. Your argument for why LeBron should win MVP for like some of these years is effectively this exact same thing, where even though one player scores more points, but the other player is going to LeBron gets more rebounds and assists. To be fair to Luka in this situation, he gets more assists, but then you'll look at field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, who's more efficient. Like, there's more box that are, I guess, ticked off for Jokic than there is for Luka. So I don't know, like, you've done that for like basically 8 years now. I don't know how you don't believe that. I don't. You make that argument several times.
His were last year. Then Jokic.
But my point, but you're saying there's no logic to like, if you voted for Luka last year, you can't vote for.
If you voted for Joker last year, then you have to vote for Shai this year.
I guess the point I'm making.
Winning. Well, I don't like the Calvin Ball element of heads I win, tails you lose to MVP discussions around this specific player. I've never seen anything like it, where there were long established norms forever that we are just chipping away every year in service of one player.
But
that's not true, though. We've been chipping away at traditional logic for years now. That's how Westbrook got the MVP. That's how Curry got a unanimous MVP. That's how LeBron almost won Finals MVP on a losing team. Like, we've been chipping away at traditional logic for quite some time now. So no, that's not true. Traditional logic has slowly started to go out of the window ever since like Curry and them just started shooting threes, and then like that right there changed everybody's view of what value may be based off of the numbers you may produce or just things that you may not be able to see. I don't understand that. So that's not true. And Reggie, you are absolutely right. By this logic, then again, you are someone who chips at traditional logic for LeBron. You do that all the time. That's why it's hard for me to take Nick Wright serious when we have these conversations. Nigga, you cape for someone to be the greatest player of all time, even though he has a losing record in the postseason, and you do that all the time. You chip away at traditional logic. That's like, I don't understand, and this is the part, like, this is where like Nick Wright loses me. Bro, Nick Wright has been arguing against Jokic for like years now at this point, even though you're the same person who would turn around and say, oh, the reason why LeBron should have won it every single year is because XYZ, yada, 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 points, rebounds, and assists. You're the same person who believed that LeBron should have won it in 2011, which means that you think LeBron should have won 5 MVPs in a row. You think LeBron should have won 3 MVPs in a row, actually 4 MVPs in a row. You think LeBron should have won 4 MVPs in a row without ever winning a championship. That's what you think. Now, again, we can debate back and forth if he should or shouldn't, but you have actively been one of the loudest people chipping away at traditional logic for LeBron. I don't understand like why we're getting, you're the wrong person to sit here and be like, why are we chipping away at traditional logic? You've never been a traditionalist in any of these conversations. You never have been.
I've never seen it.
Here's what I say about the norms are like unwritten.
Yes.
All right? They're unwritten rules, and sometimes you get new voters because a lot of the voters are beat writers.
And this nigga is stealing my talking point, but yes, he's right. You can't sit here and talk about traditional logic when the voters are not traditionalists, because these are new voters. The people who were voting 5, 10, 20 years ago are not the same ones voting right now.
And so you have younger voters coming in. I started voting almost 30 years ago. And at that time, I was like, give it to Michael Jordan every year. He's the best player, period. I remember writing a column when Karl Malone, I was like, Jordan's the best. Just because we want to give one to a great player like Karl Malone, it should be the best player every year. But now I've changed my view over the years. And so the thing is that you've got different voters with different mentalities, different criteria. Again, I think Shai will and should win it. But the one thing I would say that's unwritten that should stick, we have, just for history's sake, we have never just given it to the best player every year. Because Jordan and LeBron and Kareem, they would have had even more MVPs.
And this is the frustrating thing about what Michael Malone said, where he's like, if one guy didn't have 3, you wouldn't be saying this. Yeah, you very well might be right. But everyone has always understood the hardest MVP to win is your next one. That whatever you needed to do to win your first, you need to do more to win your second. And whatever you need to do to win your second, you have to do even more to win your third. And whatever you had to do to win your third, you have to be not only an all-time legend, which he is, but an all-time legend when no one else is having an all-time season to win your 4th or 5th or 6th.
But that's not. See, this is where and I know y'all are gonna hate me, and I think I said this in my video today on the low post, but I'll say it. I don't know if they kept it in. That's true to a certain extent, but that's not 100% true for everyone, because at certain parts in NBA history, the standard had not been set. See, the problem with Jokic and any player moving forward is that winning their second, their third, or their 4th MVP is significantly more difficult for them to do it, because not only do they have to compete with their past years, they also have to compete with the player that they're competing with in that season, but they also have to compete with history. And the longer we extend ourselves, the more there's more history that you have to compete with. So Jokic, for example, winning his 3rd MVP in a row, he had to compete with not only himself in the 2 years prior, he also had to compete with Embiid and Giannis, and then he also had to compete with the years in which we didn't give it to LeBron or Jordan or Kareem, for example, or Bird or whoever, right? Or Magic, right? So he had to compete with like 7, 8 players. If you go back to when Bird was winning his 3rd MVP in a row, he had to compete with the 2 years prior of his, whoever he was competing with in that season, potentially basically just Magic. And then that's really it. Maybe Kareem, but that's really it. And Wilt Chamberlain, but he didn't have to compete with Michael and LeBron and Jokic because they didn't exist. So the further we get deeper into NBA history, the more difficult it has to be. But I don't even know if that's true. Let me double. I feel like as if like Bird's 3rd year, I don't think it was like he did something significantly crazy. I don't think that's the case. So Bird in his 3rd MVP season, he averaged fewer points in the year prior, basically the same amount of assists, fewer rebounds in the year prior, more steals but fewer blocks, shot worse from the field, the same from behind the arc, and slightly better from the free throw line. So he didn't have to do anything significantly better to win his 3rd MVP in a row. This is the year they did win 67 games. So I guess that maybe that right there is a difference maker. But from an individual standpoint, he didn't do anything significantly better than the year priar. That's not what he did to get that. So that's a new standard set in place. That's just a new standard.
That's how it's always been. And so I don't like can we just put up real quick the Luka Joker numbers last year to remind people? And you're right, the seeding gap was bigger, but the games, the record gap was far closer. It was 50 wins. It was a 7-game record gap. This was not a close race. Luka got 4 first place votes. Brew was one of them. He got 80. So, and again, look at it. Joker was obviously more efficient from the field, less efficient from 3. The passing numbers, the scoring is massive, massive. And it was a rout because we were like, no, he's on the best team that we think's going to win the title, and he's having an awesome year. How can that be the standard for last year's MVP and this year's Shai not be an overwhelming favorite, Wilds? That's what I don't think is right.
I think he's having this conversation a little bit too early, because even after, I'm pretty sure after today, they're going to shift even more. They're going to shift heavier into Shai. I do agree with him that when I learned that the odds got cut in half after that 30-20-20 game, I thought that was crazy. But I think he's saying it's probably like a few what you call it's too early. And then I also want to wonder if the Thunder start losing games and Denver starts winning, which it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But if the gap closes to 7 games, are you then going to side with Jokic winning more since you sided with Luka last year? I don't know. I just feel like I understand what he's saying, but
inconsistent.
Isn't Shai the overwhelming favorite? Isn't there?
Thank you. I don't understand what I just don't understand what he's saying.
Like an 820
going away.
I don't even know what.
That's what I'm saying. Like, nigga, he's gonna win. He's gonna win the award.
A dollar gap? What are we calling that?
I mean, that's not
odds
really
gap or something. Like, what do you want to call that? Is that the significant gap?
Right now, the odds are significantly in Shai's favor.
So what is this fake outrage about? Yo, this nigga's so bored. This nigga is fighting with Twitter demons. That's all you're fighting through Twitter people who's sitting there on the timeline just begging for Jokic to win another one. But if the voters have it to where, like, I'm not a betting man. Hey, Real Talk is in here. You're a gambler. Is this a significant gap? Minus 500 to 320? You're a gambling nigga. You put money down on the line. And it's a significant gap.
It narrowed huge over one game over the weekend. It opened back up when after the Thunder beat them. But there is you're saying I'm getting mad at Michael Malone. Michael Malone was doing, I think, what you're kind of accusing me of doing. Michael Malone was saying, if you don't think, well, he's
going to bat for his play.
That's his, oh man, all right, we got to get out of here. Nigga, that's the player that he coaches. Of course he's going to go to bat for him. This nigga is. Nigga, right? You just complaining for the sake of complaining, bro. Let's keep it a bean. Nigga, you just yapping right now. Shai, in my opinion, should be leading the race. From what I know a little bit about gambling, it seems as if like it is a wide margin. If I had a vote, I would vote for Shai right now because I do believe when you get to that level of winning and statistical dominance, it's really hard for me to just overlook an 11-game gap, especially when you had stretches of this season where you are on par with the greatest teams of all time. And you could very well argue when Shai is on the floor, some of the net rating numbers and lineup data all point to the fact that Shai, when he's on the floor, he is leading these minutes in some of the greatest units in NBA history, if not the greatest units in NBA history, because of course we don't have like some of the lineup data from back in like the 90s and shit like that. All of this just points to Shai should win it. And that's how most people feel anyway. We're having a conversation for the sake of having a conversation. I do agree that Stephen A. Smith like saying that it's definitive and he doesn't care what happens. I think that's kind of excessive. But like Shai is winning the award. I don't know why we're having this conversation right now as if like you're fake outraging because the coach of the other player said that the best player on his team that he's coaching should win the award. Like, nigga, that's everyone. If you ask Doc Rivers quite literally, like a week or two ago, sat there and said that Giannis is having an underrated season. No one's really talking about it. Like, they all big up the best player on their team. That's what they're supposed to do. They're the coach of the fucking team. You're fake outraging right now.
He was doing that. He was saying, you don't know basketball if you don't think this guy's the MVP. And I think that is...
Yeah, he's saying blind resume. The guy who, when we rubber stamp...
He's about to average a
Russ's triple-doubles for MVP. It's like, this looks great. Like, I get what he's saying. I also would vote for SGA if I had a vote, but I understand it. I also don't necessarily think he was even talking about the MVP. I think he's just trying to gas his team up and gas.
Yeah, he's just trying to support his player.
Yeah, this is fake outreach. Yeah, Nick, you're bored. Y'all need a segment to talk about. I get it. And your shtick right now has been for the past 3 to 4 years is Jokic hate. I get it, dog. I get it. I do believe the biggest sentiment that should be stated is that the best player in the league is not the MVP. That is an association that we all have to stop doing, not only because that's never what it has meant. There's several examples throughout NBA history where we understand that the best player may not, if the best player is on like a 500 ball club, when another great player is having a really great year, just because you're the best player doesn't mean that you're going to receive the award. And the fact that people love to lead with that argument, they led with it when it came to LeBron. People are leading it right now with Jokic. Like we know that's not what the award is. We know that. So there's no need for us to even sit here and try to have that debate. If there's anything that can be stated, we know irrefutably that the award is not given to the best player in the NBA. Normally is given to someone with some team success, some level of team success, especially when the team success, well, let me go back. Not the best player in the league, some form of statistical dominance, that's second, and then some level of team success. I think those are probably the three. And also games played. Outside of like Bill Walton, more than likely, like you've had to have played like 80 to 85% of the season. Like that's more than likely what you would have to.